Fighter pilot, commercial pilot, warbird pilot. Let's find out who the man behind Flywire is on this episode of In the Hangar. Welcome to In the Hangar. I'm Christy Wong.
And I'm Dan Milliken. In the Hangar is sponsored by Gold Seal and iFly GPS. Christy, what do we got today?
We've got Scott Perdue with us. We've got Flywire.
Flywire's in the house.
Flywire's in the house.
Scott, thank you for coming.
Hey, well, thanks for having me.
All right,
Fun.
we're just going to jump right into it. Tell us about yourself. Who are you? Who is Flywire?
Let's see, how much time? Well, I started off as a kid. My dad was a pilot. He was a Marine pilot in World War II.
Oh, wow. What did he fly?
Well, he actually...
You say F-4, Corsair, I'm going to die.
That was what he wanted to fly.
Right.
Oh, okay.
He fought to fly. He actually went through the CPT program before the war, and then they made him a radio operator.
Oh.
Yeah, he was an enlisted man. And when he was a radio operator, he fought to fly. It took him about a year and a half. He got in pilot training. Finished right towards the end of the war when the Marines, he was in the Marine Corps. They didn't really need pilots anymore. So he languished in Corpus Christi for most of the rest of the war when he finished. So most he ever flew was the S&J, T6. Wanted to fly the Corsair.
Was he one of those, in World War II, I know one branch, it may have been the Marines, enlisted men were pilots, like technical sergeants or something. Was he one of those, or did he become an officer?
No, he never did. He was one of the flying sergeants.
Okay, good.
And the Marines kept those, and in the Air Force actually had some, but then they ended up commissioning him toward the end of the war.
Okay.
So he got out, and then he kept flying and had a steerman. I grew up with a steerman, and I still have his steerman.
Terrible
wow.
childhood.
Yeah.
I've seen the steerman on your show. I didn't know that was his steerman.
That was his, yeah.
It's a
So
beautiful looking airplane.
It's been in the family forever. It took me, actually restored it, took about almost 10 years. I worked slow to restore it. But so I grew up flying, flying with him, actually one of the things he did, he had a friend who had a range master, Navy on range master. He could fly whenever he wanted to as long as he took care of it, and then flew this guy's brother, who happened to be a football coach. So every Saturday, we're going somewhere to a football game and flying that airplane. So that's how I grew up, around the airplane, strapping people into the steerman for steerman rides.
Was it always you were going to join the military and fly?
I think so. My parents told me that the first word I said was pilot. So, I don't know. I was there, but I don't remember it. But yes, I wanted to fly. I went in, and so how I did it was I went in the Marines after high school. I could not feature my dad paying for college because he's going to hang it over from the rest of my life, right? So I couldn't do that. So when I graduated, there was a recession, so there was no jobs, and I kicked around, and I decided that, well, maybe I need to do is go in the military. So this is a quick version of the story, hopefully. So I went downtown because the recruiters were all downtown, and I went to the Coast Guard, and because they looked real fun, they go on these boats and they turn around because I knew I couldn't fly. I didn't have a college degree, so maybe those boats would flip over in the water would be fun. And I went to those guys and they said, "Oh yeah, you're just the kind of guy we want. This would be great." I said, "Well, when can I go?" And they said, "Well, about 6 months." I'm going to be dead by then. I can't do that. So I walked down the hallway and I looked in the Marines, and I walked in. I'm in boot camp in 2 days.
Wow.
So you enlisted?
I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and while I was there, I ended up doing ground school, and I started flying. Ended up being stationed at Parris Island, South Carolina.
Wow.
And I started flying in the Aero Club at Hunter Army Airfield in Georgia.
But you were flying civilian?
Yes.
Not for the Marines?
Right. And I got my ticket, and I ended up getting my ticket at Randolph Aero Club. And I got out of the Corps and stayed in the reserves, but I went to college. I went to UT, got my degree, and then went into the Air Force to fly.
That is.
Oh, okay. I did not. I knew you flew in the military, so I was starting to get lost here. So, so then you went back to UT. Then you rejoined, but now, as an officer.
You transversed.
I did. Yeah. Well, the Marines didn't want me to fly. They wanted me to be a grunt, and I was like, okay, I've done that before. I don't want to do that. So
And you want to fly?
I want to fly, so I went in the Air Force.
All right. What'd you fly in the Air Force?
Well, I went to Shepherd, and that's the Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training Program, and it's a great program. And from there, I went to fly F-4s, and flew that for about 5 years. And then you have to do an Alpha tour, so I went and did an Alpha tour as a ALO, Air Liaison Officer, and I went to Germany for that, and that's the first Gulf War.
Oh, okay.
So
at that point, that was like the end of the F-4s where they were being used for electronic countermeasures and stuff, right?
Well, there were a limited number of roles for the airplane. And all my buds went to the war. I didn't get to go doing that, but I weaseled my way in to be an ALO, and I was a Syrian 9th Armored Division ALO during the first Gulf War.
Wow.
Watching those guys up there and going, God, running 9 lines, stuff like that. So from there, after that tour, I went to fly the Strike Eagle, the F-15E.
Nice.
Wow.
And I flew it at Lakenheath, and then I ended up at Seymour Johnson in North Carolina teaching new guys how to fly the airplane.
So what do you, did you ever get to fly like F-16 or any of the later things?
No, later things.
Well,
We
okay.
were the newest airplane on the
The thing
block.
is, I mean, as when I was in college and I had a Commodore 64, there was an F-15 simulator game that I loved. That was a long time ago, but yet the F-15 is still around. That,
F-15's still around.
it is incredible life on that.
It is, and actually the Air Force is getting ready to buy between 400 and 600 new ones.
Right, because of the problems with the F-35.
Yeah.
Which, is a...
And the E model is an incredible airplane. The F-15 is just an incredible airplane. You can do so much with it, and the F-35 you can't. The F-16 they've modified, and
Right.
it's kept up. Unfortunately, I never got to fly it.
And so how long were you in the Air Force?
Well, I did 8 years enlisted in the Marine Corps, and then I did 16 in the Air Force.
Wow.
And it all counted?
Oh, yeah.
So you got that college paid for.
Actually, I did college on the GI Bill.
There you
Oh,
go.
because you'd done the... Oh, that was smart.
Yeah, see?
All right. So what happened when you transitioned out of the Air Force?
Well, everybody's going to the airlines, so I went to the airlines. I actually went to United first. My cohort, all the people that I knew were going to the United, so I went to United, and I flew with them through the summer of 2000. And, I flew for United. I got hired by American on a trip. I've been flying for about 3 or 4 months, and I was on a trip with United, and American finally calls me up because they didn't call me first. So I gotta get a job, right? So, so they called me up and they said, "Hey, you still want to work for us?" And I said, "Sure." It says, "We'll be here in 5 days." So I guess they had a hole that they had to fill. So I told United, it says, "I'm quitting." They were so mad at me that they took my ID badge, my uniform, everything, and they made me find my own way home from Chicago.
Wow. Well, now, what made American more enticing than United? Why not just stay with United?
I could stay here.
Oh.
Because we'd already moved back to the Fort Worth area, and kids were here, everything's set up here, and that way I don't have to commute. Commuting is, a lot of people do it in the airlines, but not
That's
commuting,
rough.
is much easier.
Okay. So you went to American,
Went to American.
and then what?
Well, I'd flown the 7-2 as an engineer at United.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I got at American, 7-2 engineer, not like I had a choice. So going through the course, it was easy because I already had my ticket, So I flew the engineer, and frankly, to be honest with you, I hated it.
I would too.
Sitting sideways.
Yeah, exactly.
Balancing fuel and generators and hydraulics, all that. It was crazy. So I finally got into the right seat in the 7-2, and that's an incredible airplane.
Really?
Yeah, what a job. The right seat, you didn't do the pre-flight. Flight engineer did that. You did
I'm starting to learn.
Yeah, you did the flight planning, and you flew. And the 7-2 is actually a really nice flying airplane. The interesting thing about the 7-2 is it doesn't flare like a normal airplane.
Right, that's what I've heard, yeah.
All I ever flew was the 200s, which is the long bodies, so you flare it by pushing forward. Just a little bit forward, because otherwise, if you try to flare going backwards, it drives those gear into the ground. So, man, it's a hard landing. And I've actually had a few hard landings in the 7-2. Didn't drop the masks, though.
Oh.
Yeah. So from there, they got rid of the 7-2. I went to the Fokker, And then they got rid of the Fokker 100, and I got laid off. And
Was that after 9/11?
Yeah, not right away, about a year and a half. After,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and I came back and I flew the 75, 76, and then I flew the MD-80. I could come back here on the MD-80, and then I flew the 7-3, and that's what I finished up on.
So pretty much everything.
I got
Just about.
I flew a lot of weird stuff. MD-80 was terrible.
Well, it's gone now, too.
It's gone now. It's actually, the funny thing about the MD-80 is hand flying it is a wonderful airplane. And you look at it, it doesn't fly normal because you don't have, everything's not connected. It's all by the tabs.
Right.
You control the tabs and they move the flight controls. So you'd watch it at the end of the runway going, something's wrong with this airplane. They should report it, you know. But it hand flew great. Its autopilot was horrible. It was a violation waiting to happen.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, so with military, with commercial, and all the stuff you do as a civilian, any interesting emergency stories?
Interesting emergency stories. Well, I had, the first thing that pops to mind, free association, is flying an F-4. It's night flight. And back in those days, you know, you volunteer for every flight. Everyone, period, you know, and the weather's bad. The majors and lieutenant colonels would go, hey, I got a work meeting. I'll take it, you know. So I was on one of those flights, and it was at night. And we split up, because you normally fly twos. So we split up, and I'm just doing instrument approaches, great big radar patterns. And all my electronics failed.
Yikes.
In IMC?
Well, there was a cloud deck in and out. It wasn't broke. It was broken, not overcast. But it's nighttime.
Right.
And all my electrics failed. But you have a standby radio, and you have a little, what we call the peanut gauge, a little attitude indicator. And that worked basically for about 9 minutes reliably, which was just enough time for the controller to give me a PAR, you know, turn left, stop, turn, you know, back, and then, oh, good, there's a runway, and land on it.
Wow.
Wow. Is that, you think, is that one of the most nervous or scared moments in?
Well, when it was happening, I didn't think about it at all. You know, it's just like, this is what I got to do. This is all I have. Concentrate on that, and that's what you do.
Okay, you also fly for this commemorative Air Force, right?
I did. I'm not doing it right now, but I have, yeah.
How does a person get involved in that?
Well, you have some relevant experience helps you, and then you become a colonel and you sponsor an airplane, get the appropriate training to then fly that airplane. I'd had a lot of time, and I've done some other warbird flying with other people, but having time in Stearmans and T6s really helps.
I see.
I can see that. Okay, how did you start Flywire? What possessed you to go into the YouTube world?
Yeah.
Well, what happened to me was I had a friend of mine, his name was Tom Gresham, and he runs a radio show called Gun Talk, and he's also done some TV and stuff like that, and he decided he wanted to do a TV show called Wings to Adventure. This was in 03, 04 timeframe. And I was retired, and I've been writing for the magazines and doing articles and stuff like that, and flying a lot of different airplanes and doing photo shoots, and so it fit right in. So I joined Tom in Wings to Adventure, and we did 4 seasons of shows, and mostly I did the production, putting the stories together, and then arranging everything so we can go on and shoot like you guys do here, so it's real efficient. And I would do all the formation work for the air-to-air shots. I did a little bit of on-air stuff, but I was always, you know,
Yeah.
so they didn't use me very much. But I really enjoyed it. And then what happened is I had a rotator cuff issue, so I was down for like 2-3 months, and I'm just going to do this in video. Do it myself. Go back to what Wings to Adventure was, and so that's how I started Flywire. I was not doing much. I couldn't do anything, couldn't fly or anything like that, so I started doing videos.
Yeah, bored. Think I'll start a YouTube channel.
How'd you come up with the name Flywire? I mean, I know what fly-by-wire means.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I used to write for the magazines, and there was a guy who decided that, hey, I want to start a business. We need to start an aviation magazine. And I said, okay, I think that's a great idea, but I don't want to do a print magazine. We need to do it online. So we worked and fleshed this whole thing out, and then when it came to the budget and how much is it going to cost, you go, not doing that. We were going to name it Flywire.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice. How long have you been doing Flywire for now?
I think it's just over 2 years now, 2.5 years maybe.
Okay. Anything coming up in the future that you can share with us for the channel?
Well, I'm changing my content around a little bit. I've done a lot. I haven't done many flying videos lately because my airplane's been down for avionics.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, hopefully it's going to come out on the 15th of this month, so then we can get back to doing that. But I've been doing a lot of accident analysis, and I like that. I've actually done that in the Air Force. I used to do stuff like that. So, but I don't want to be all accident analysis.
Right.
So what I want to do is I like to talk to people and tell stories. That's what I like most about writing for magazines when I did that, is tell people stories. So I'm going to do a bit more than that, and hopefully the viewers will like that too.
Well, the channel's been growing really well. What would you attribute the success?
I would say mostly it's the accident analysis. People really like to watch that.
There's a lot of people like you and me out there.
Well, see, yeah, the thing is, and we've talked about this a little bit, both Christy and I, long before we were pilots, I've been very intrigued by crashes and accident investigations, and have bought multitude books of this crash or that crash, and would just eat it up. And so I've always been intrigued by it, and thought about, at some point on this channel, I'd like to do this, and finally stepped out and did one in the summer, and I really enjoyed it, and studying about it and posting it, and there is a bit of there's a lot of people out there doing it, and doing it well. I mean, Juan Brown at Blanco Lirio, he's superb. I mean, his analysis is great. Your stuff is really, really good.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't want to duplicate what Juan and you were doing. So I'm trying to do more of a GA focused on whatever event it's going to be. So I think that'll be the difference. But I do enjoy doing them.
Well, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
When I was growing up as a pilot, there was, there was a couple of regular things in like flying in AOPA magazine talking about accidents. Somebody telling about what happened to them. And there were reviews and stuff like that. And the Navy had a guy called Grandpa Pettibone, who wasn't a real person, but he's an outgrowth of a World War II character, the old grizzled naval aviator, and he would boil the whole accident down to the very nuts of what happened and what do we need to learn to not do that anymore. And frankly, that's the take I like to take for my accident analysis. But I think that's missing. That's been missing a lot. So I think there's a lot of people interested in stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that with the success of the accident investigation videos, we're starting to see more and more people trying to do that. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it just is. It'll be interesting. And I like the idea of doing multitude. Of course, with my channel, we're not just one thing. We do a lot of different videos as well. And I kind of like that. I kind of like keeping it variety, spice of life.
Yeah, variety.
Keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
You got to be interested in it, otherwise,
Absolutely. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
And you guys definitely need to head over to Scott's channel, Flywire. He's got some pretty good stuff on there. As always, if you like what you see, like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you next time.
In the hangar.
So Colton is a mortgage banker, and what that means essentially is we utilize our own warehouse facilities, our own money to fund the transactions, and it gives us control of the transaction. Whereas mortgage brokers, broker the transaction, refer the files and the client's business out to other banks and aggregators within the industry for them to make the decision on it. We maintain those controls in-house so we can control our client experience level and assure that we perform at the highest level.